I am your host of the evening, the Cemetery Man from Salem, Mass. Always taking names and kicking ass. Live in living color here on the Ram Nation Radio app, Facebook. Actually, not Facebook Live, YouTube Live. I should know by now because we took over an hour to set this up. Get my very special guest of the evening on here today. He is the one, the only, the horror boy, the explorer of horror, Nate Murphy, live in living color here with me to discuss his favorite all-time horror movie franchise, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series. Nate, how are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on. Thanks to Ram Radio as well for having me on. I can't wait to get into this. Never been on your show before, so it's excited to get in the Grande's graveyard. Can't wait.
Right? It's been a long time coming because I have wanted you to be on the show really since the beginning because you and Nate and I have done so many streams on YouTube. I mean, we've done Cannibal Holocaust.
I think I lost count.
Dude, yeah, right? We've done decades through horror. We've done defending our most bashed sequels like Friday 13th Part 5, Halloween 3. And dude, it's just an honor to have you on today. I'm so glad
thank you so much, man.
Dude, anytime, man. But I figured I was like, you know what? I was like, if I ever have Nate on the show, I gotta have him and I discuss his favorite all-time horror movie series, because I know your all-time favorite horror movie will be the first one we discuss. But man, tell me before we start this, man, how did you initially get into the horror genre? I've always actually wanted to know the story, and I've never asked you.
Well, growing up, Really, my mom, man, she was really into horror movies. She'd watch scary movies all the time. And it started out, I would watch PG-13 horror films because, starting out young, got to go PG-13. So I got to watch Poltergeist. I got to watch some really great PG-13 horror films. And then as I got older, discovered Friday the 13th, stuff like that. But that wasn't when I really got into horror. When I really got into horror was around later on, I was probably in middle school or something like that. I started watching horror a lot more because I watched the entire Jason franchise, all the Halloween movies. I seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and really just blew me away. Those movies really got me into horror. I've just been in love with it ever since, man. My parents probably thought it was a phase, but they're probably still like, no, it's not a phase anymore.
Dude, yeah, it's funny. I would say around that time too. I've always been into it since I was a little kid, but it was around middle school for me too, where I became diehard for it. I was looking for weird, obscure slasher movies every day when I got home. I was like, I have to see these weird hardcore movies because they're all the same, but hell, man, I can't get enough of it. It was one of those things where I just, kept craving and thirsting for more. And that's a genre, man. You can never really run out.
No, that's the great thing. There's so much to explore.
Yeah. And in essence, I brought the explorer of horror on the show today. So I was just like, I'm so glad to have Nate on today. This is awesome. But
man, I'm excited.
Yeah, dude, I'm so happy. But dude, I figure why not? We can go right into these movies because I know these are your fave. And it all started in 1974. It all started with an idyllic summer afternoon drive that turned into a nightmare. It became forever known as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Actually, on the top 10 list, it is number 2 for me. I know for Nate, it's number 1. So you have 2 people on the show that have it at least in the top 2. That tells you, I think this movie pretty much defines the horror genre, and I've loved it ever since the first time I've seen it. But man, I got to walk me through the first time you saw the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Well, I actually, back in the day, I don't know if anybody else would do this, but back in the day on YouTube, I would look up horror theme songs and horror trailers just so I could see, how many horror films are out there. And I had seen the remake first. That was the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie I seen. And I was really wondering if there was another one out there. And I would look up trailers of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I watched 1 through 3, and they all 3 have great trailers. I will say this though, the first movie had a trailer that revealed a little too much to me, but it was not even holding back. It was boom, boom, boom. Here's all the best moments of the movie. But I seen that trailer, and ever since then, man, it was something that I was like, ooh, that looks really good. Something about it drew me to it, the look of it, the grittiness to it. And basically, I had found it, I think, a really, really cheap DVD. I think I still have it. It's over there. It's black and silver looking DVD. It's a very basic DVD, and I'd seen it on that, and I just loved the way that it was done, man. That was the first time I had really seen that movie. It was just the style and everything else. Just loved about it, man.
Dude, yeah, it's one of those movies. It's breathtaking. I actually remember the first time I watched it. It was actually like a Saturday morning. And I remember I every Saturday morning, this is a big Long Island thing. I don't know if by you guys, but bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches is like my
Mm.
special. I love bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches. It's like a big like thing here. And I remember like every like Saturday morning around 11, my grandmother would make me a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich. And I was like, I got up and I had the DVD. I'd been holding it off. I was like, man, like I don't know if I want to get into this. I'm afraid. I'm all these different things at once. And I watched it, and I remember at the end, I remember once the screen faded to black and you saw the credits, I remember not being hungry that day for
Mm-hmm.
the egg and cheese sandwich. I remember just the chills running up. Like, I know it's become cliche and people go, oh, goosebumps up and down my arm, but really, this is one of the handful of times where that actually happened to me. I was terrified by this goddamn movie. Just everything about it, man. The unsettling atmosphere, the feel, the gritty tone. Even I would say even the actors, they don't even feel like actors to me in this movie. Like you don't look at any of them and go, oh, there's the Kevin Bacon. You know what I mean? Like none of them really went on to do anything of any substantial note. None of them really became stars. But it was almost like this movie was lightning in a bottle. It was the right people at the right place at the right time with the right director, Mr. Toby Hooper. May he rest in peace. And I think they just all kind of came together, and it's something they kind of just fell into with
Mm-hmm.
the masterpiece that this movie ultimately became. Because on paper, you think about this movie like that's a bunch of kids in a van. They get lost. They run into crazy family and get murdered. Like that's really the
Mm-hmm.
only plot
Yeah.
of the movie, but it's so much more than that at the same time. I don't know if, it's so much more than just a murder movie. I think it's so much more than just a slasher movie. I think it's just a once in a lifetime type of flick. But man, walk me through some of your favorite scenes in this one. Cause I know this is your all time fave. So I want you to gush about this. This is what the show is. Gush ahead, my friend.
Well, I just there were certain scenes that stuck out to me, like just the scene where the lady goes into the room of bones, and it's a long shot too of just the bones and the furniture, and there's skeletons everywhere, and I just thought the music also really added something to that scene and how she starts freaking out. So I love that scene, but my absolute favorite scene from the movie would probably be in the third act. It's the dinner scene
Oh,
because that scene, dude, is the most insane. I remember watching that scene, and you just feel everything. You feel, and it's one of those movies that you can smell, but you can't really smell. But you could tell if you were there, if you could smell, it probably wouldn't be too pleasant. You know, it looks sweaty. Everybody looks like they're in 90-degree weather. The scene is done very well, and just I think it was like a 30-hour, 40-hour shoot they did, and they shot from literally dusk till dawn, and they would just nonstop shoot that scene. And I thought that really, if did a great job with the scene. I think it really added to that scene because the acting, just the camera work and everything. That's my favorite scene. Uh, I love the death scenes as well. I think they're very surprising. I would have been more surprised if that trailer didn't spoil everything for me. But
yeah.
just seeing the initial thing, seeing how it played out with no music. Really, the kills don't have this over the top score because Friday the 13th is a really loud score. Halloween is a loud score, but not really with this movie. It's more of a just boom, on to the next scene.
There's like no music in this movie. That's the thing that
Hmm.
always got me. Like, in any other horror movie you hear, with the big chase scene at the end, like Friday 13 Part 3 is a perfect example. They keep
Hmm.
that up-based Harry Manfredini tempo. But with this movie, when Sally Hardesty jumps out the window and Ed Neal's behind her, slicing her back up, there's no music at all.
Hmm.
And you really, for me at least, I've had that nightmare a few times, like in my life, where I'm running
Hmm.
out of that house and I see Leatherface coming with the chainsaw and the hitchhiker's right behind me, just purposely not catching up, but purposely just torturing me, slicing my
Yeah,
back. That's terrifying. Like I've had that dream numerous times, and it's not that's not a fun nightmare to have. Let me tell you.
it's
Um,
not.
no, not at all. But like, yeah, man, like everything you said, like this movie's just so classic. Like that dinner scene, exactly. Like that's one of the best scenes. I think is the most ripped off scene in the history of horror.
Mm-hmm.
Like how many goddamn any movie after this? I mean, TCM 2, TCM 3, you know, the TCM the beginning, all of them have that dinner scene at the end where the girl is tied up in the same goddamn way, screaming her head off. But it really works here because, like you said, you know, you can feel the atmosphere in that room. You smell it. Like it all your five senses are working when you watch that scene. And the close-ups on Marilyn Burns' beautiful eyes as she's screaming in terror for help. I mean, that's just terrifying. And actually, I would say some of the dialogue there between the cook and between Edwin Neal. And the cook's like, I don't take any pleasure in killing. I just don't take no pleasure in killing. And you know, Ed Neal is like, you know, urging him on. He's like, you're just a cook. Me and Leatherface do all the work here. And I'm just like, damn. And then they talk about Grandpa, and Grandpa killed 60 in 5 minutes once. Could have killed more. They got the beeves out of the way faster. Like, I'm just like, what? Like, what does that even mean? Like, it scares me to death. I still to this day don't understand what they mean. Like, is it an open field where there were cattle and people, and then the grandpa just decided to murder them all? Like, I don't know, but to this day, that line just every time scares me because I still don't know what it means, you know?
Yeah, it's creepy. It's
Dude,
creepy.
Really creepy. And I think the opening scene, the introduction to the hitchhiker, man, walk me through that scene. Like, what were your, that scene scares the crap out of me too.
It was really uncomfortable, man, because you know, I already knew like the rule, don't pick up a hitchhiker.
Damn
but
right.
this really like, yeah, now you're hitchhiking. Sorry, dude. But you know, I just thought the scene was just so well done. I mean, it was intense. There was weird because there is music in the scene, but it was kind of this background music, this really weird song playing.
Mm-hmm.
But it again doesn't really have any music in it, yet it makes it more intense. And I think when he gets in, you just immediately know something's wrong. And you know, he has the camera, has that really crazy scene where he takes a picture, you know, pay me. He's like, this is a bad picture. I'm not paying you. And then he cuts his arm, and it was just the way that it was done, man. It was such a great introduction. I'm a big fan of Edwin Neal. And I think kind of Chop Top gets that. I mean, I love Chop Top, don't get me wrong, but it seems like fans have kind of gone to Arlie Ermy and Chop Top. Great actors, great characters. But I've always thought Edwin Neal did a great job in this movie, seeming crazy. And the head cheese. My brother makes head cheese. Like, I love all that stuff. It's so great, man. And it's an intense scene, man. It's a really uncomfortable scene because you can tell just by expressions on the people's faces, they're just really off put by this guy. Just well done.
Exactly. Yeah. And I love, he's talking about the sledgehammer. He goes, they died better that way. And like, I agree with you completely. Like, I love Mosley. I love him. I think he's great. Chop Top is one of the most legendary characters. Like, it's really the number one thing people remember about Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. But man, Edwin Neal in this movie was just on a different level. I'm pretty sure he was a veteran, and I feel like he took a lot of that with him. It's almost like, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I've told my friend Brian, it's almost like he looks like a demented James Franco to me.
He does.
Like, he gets in that van, and it's a good picture. And it's, you know, a lot of people, I've heard people say, I've shown it to them, they're like, oh, it's over the top. I don't agree. I think it is so spot on for what a psychopathic hitchhiker would be if you were to pick one up. And man, I think Edwin Neal hit it out of the park. I actually, years ago when I did my flashback horror movie show, I gave Edwin Neal the #1 spot for best acting performance in a horror film, just because I thought he was so scary. And like, he's the one thing to me. How much screen time does he have? Maybe 7-8 minutes, I think, if that, maybe 10 at tops. But you remember him.
More screen time than him, I think.
Definitely. And but you remember that Edwin Neal hitchhiker character forever. And like, that's why I think this movie has always stood the test of time. There's little, you know, and even the kills, like, you think, oh, you know, kills are the most memorable things about most slasher movies. This movie, you know, they don't show much. It's essentially a bloodless film, even though it is called the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And that's what everybody sees, a bloodbath, but there really is no bloodbath to see. And that speaks to how great of a director Tobe Hooper was, because he didn't show, but we all felt. And I always thought that was the greatest thing about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I never needed to see the hook go into Terry McMinn as she slowly walks to the house, and we get that awesome ass shot where she's in the tight, red short shorts, and you see her big ass as she walks towards that house. That's one of the best scenes ever, man. And as she walks towards that house, and then she gets hooked, and the kill with the sledgehammer where he opens up the door and Leatherface is there, whack, and then you see him shake, he pulls in, slams that door shut. That's all I had to see because I filled in the rest with my own brain. And I think a lot of movies to this day don't pick up on that. Like, I think they think, oh, we have to show. This movie really doesn't do much showing, but we always remember. And like, that's why I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre is my second favorite horror movie. And I would argue, I think this is one of, if not the greatest horror movies. Like, I totally think you can make the argument for this being the best one ever made.
Yeah, man. And that's an issue with later on sequels, that they tried to be more gory, but yet this movie still sticks out. And I think that's what really is special about this movie, is because, when you add all that gore into it, you're no longer letting the audience use their imagination to make it scary. When in this movie, it's realistic the way it's done. It's just the way it looks, and it was meant to be a documentary feel. So that was really well done. I agree with you, man. It's easily, like I said, my favorite horror film of all time. It's because I think it does a lot of things right that a lot of horror films don't do, and it has inspired a lot of horror films. You could tell, Edwin Neal's performance being in other horror films. You can tell.
Yeah, 100%. And you look at where Leatherface, then you look at the Jason character like years later, it's very similar. It's a guy in a mask killing people, a big guy in a mask killing people. Like, you definitely see where they got, like, hundreds of horror movies got the inspiration. Even if you look at a movie like Wrong Turn 2, which you wouldn't think had anything to do with this. At the end, there's that classic dinner scene where the girl is chained up, not in rope this time, we'll put her in barbed wire, like every movie and their mother has ripped off the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And you wouldn't believe it, but at the end of the day, this is still the one that did it the best, I think. And one more thing before we do move on from this one, because I do love this movie without a doubt. I can't lie. I think this has the best ending in the history of horror. Like, I love the final act of this movie. Like, everything from the setup to the dinner scene, and then when Sally escapes and all that crazy shit goes down in the middle of the road, that just always sticks with me. I remember, actually, I saw this. I had the privilege to see this on 35 millimeter on the big screen with my good buddy Garrick. And that scene came up, and it was the end of the, I had been having a great time. And as Leatherface just misses Sally, she gets away in the truck, she does the crazy laugh, Leatherface does his dance, and the movie ended. And I remember, literally, I've seen the movie 20 times at that point. It was still like I had only seen it for the first time. It never loses its impact. And me and Garrick and the entire theater, we got up and applauded. Like, there's no other horror movie you do that for to me. I just think it's so impactful. I love the ending of this film, and I love everything about it. For me, this is a 10 out of 10 movie. I think it's a perfect, like, if you were ever to put 5 movies in a time capsule for people to see 100 years from now, horror movies, this would be one of them for me. I think it's perfection. I love it. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, absolute all-time classic. And Nate, I'm sure I'm going to ask the stupid question. What would you give this one out of 10, Nate?
I don't know, maybe a 5. No, I'll give it a 10, of course.
5. There's bad CGI and shit acting.
No gore, man. There's no gore.
There's no gore, man. I'm all mad. I'm trying to
top.
What kind of title is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, man?
Yeah, I wish I called a head cheese.
Why didn't they let it be rated PG like Toby Hooper wanted?
I wanted to see PG.
I want to see the PG Texas Chainsaw Massacre version, man. I want to see that version with where they don't show the dead.
I would so laugh, and the Disney logo at the beginning of it. You see the Disney Pixar logo.
Yeah, man, that would have been epic, right? But yeah, moving on to, of course, that's a classic movie. We love it. Love Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Totally. If you have not seen that, if you've been living under a rock, please go see it. If you're, insane. Yes. But fast forward 12 years later, where Toby Hooper had been holding off on making a sequel to the original, and he had made films like Eaten Alive, The Fun House, Life Force, and he eventually came to Cannon, and Cannon said, we'll give you a 3-picture deal. if one of the three pictures is the long awaited, high anticipated sequel to the original. And he said, okay, that's going to be number 3. So he made Invaders from Mars, he made Life Force, and then he came out with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. And this movie, when it came out, was very, very hated. It has since gained, I think, a huge cult following. And I know people that literally worship this movie. They think it's one of the best sequels of all time. And I think it's because Tobe Hooper knew that he couldn't top the original. I think he knew you couldn't top the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I think he just decided, I'm going to make a black comedy. And I think that's really why this movie works for a lot of cult horror fans, is because it really doesn't take itself too seriously. And it is such a different overall tone to the original film. But man, what are your thoughts on this one? I've actually I watched all your reviews last night on your channel. By the way, check out Nate's channel, TheHorrorBoy. This was the only one I didn't watch because I wanted to hear Nate's fresh thoughts on the show, man. What are your thoughts on TCM2?
I remember the first time I seen this, which I have the Blu-ray of, which was the gruesome edition. It's pretty cool. But I would pick up the Scream Factory, but I'm fine with this one. It has features. But I seen it on an old DVD, like an old MGM DVD release, and
is that the one with Dennis Hopper on the cover?
Yeah,
that's a bad cover.
I was like, why is he on the front cover?
He's just him. He's just like, looks like all serious. And I'm just like, what? Like, what? Like, what kind of advertising is that?
They should keep that Breakfast Club poster. I swear. That's the best poster you could use.
I don't even know if they've ever released an edition with that as the artwork. Like, I might be crazy, but I don't think I've ever seen that if they have.
I don't know why not. I think it's better than, I like this, but it's better than that. And it's better than
one of the most classic covers ever, I think.
Oh yeah, I love that poster. But I seen it, man. I thought it was bizarre, man. I thought it was a crazy movie. I remember the opening with the yuppies, shooting the signs and stuff like that. And they, one of them gets their head right like that. And it was just a crazy movie, man. And I remember really liking the comedy. I mean, later on to watch reviews, people say they didn't really like the comedy, but I like the comedy, man. I like the gore. I like the Tom Savini effects. And I agree with you, man. I think, Tobe Hooper just realized that and it's been proven, you cannot top the original. It's just such a flawless film, but just the way it's like Halloween. You've had Halloween 2, you had Halloween 4, and you've had these great sequels, but it's hard to follow up that greatness. But if you're going to make a sequel, instead of ripping off the previous movie you made, why not make something completely and utterly different, which some filmmakers have done and failed. And this does and succeeds really, really well. I think the gore is great. The practical effects are amazing by Tom Savini. It's definitely a very different film from the original in a good way. I just love Dennis Hopper in the movie, man. I think he's great.
Oh my God, dude. I love the scene at the beginning where after they find the 2 guys that have been killed and the one guy's trying to tell Dennis Hopper, oh, it was an accident. It was an accident. Don't even worry about it. He goes, it was a total accident. And he goes, yeah. He goes, one of the boys accidentally sawed his own head off going 90 miles per hour. I love that, man. Every time I laugh like crazy. And the scenes where Dennis Hopper's buying the chainsaws, like, and he's practicing like dueling on a log. Then the guy's just like watching him. He's like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? Like Dennis Hopper's like, like going to town on this log, man. And I belly roll every time. Like, it is one of the funniest goddamn. I love that. And of course, Jim Seedow returning as the cook, man. I love Jim Seedow.
Oh, yeah.
I love the chili cook-off, and he wins. And this is just one of them hard-shelled peppercorns. I love that, man. That's hilarious. And they're all like, oh, man, once again, Texas wins the meat challenge. What's the secret, Drayton? Oh, it's the meat. I always use the best kind of meat. I love that. Like, that's such clever writing. And I think that's like the entire, to me, the spirit of this film. Like some of the jokes like that, some of the subtler jokes like that. I really thought that stuff was funny. And of course, Bill Johnson comes in to play Leatherface. And of course, the person that stands out the most is Bill Moseley, making probably his biggest, until he became Otis Driftwood, this was really his claim to fame. And he plays the Chop Top character. And what were always your thoughts on Leatherface in this film and Chop Top?
I actually really liked Bill Johnston playing Leatherface. I mean, it's definitely very different. I remember the first time I seen it, I really didn't like it, to be honest. I was like, man, this is not as good as Gunnar Hansen. But for what it is, I think it's just he's a hilarious character. He's kind of a more of an innocent character in this movie. Yeah, he kills people, obviously, but in this movie, it's kind of like they explore that really bizarre puberty stage, but yet he looks like he's in his late 20s, and they kind of brung that into the movie, made it very bizarre watch. I think also Chop Top is a great character. He would go on to be one of the fan favorites in the series, and Bill Moseley is just a great actor, man. I'm a huge fan of him. I love him in the Rob Zombie movies. I love him and pretty much all. I mean, really think about it. There's been a lot of bad movies, but has he done really bad in his movies? Not really. He's always done really great jobs, at least from what I've seen. Um, but yeah, man, Chop Top is classic. I think I like Bill Johnston as Leatherface, like his look with the suit and the mask, like the way everything looks. Just a very different take on everything. I think it's very important that you do that because it makes the experience of watching it very different, and it's done well.
100%. And like I just think I know our good buddy Gideon, he does a great Chop Top impression.
Yeah.
It's scary good. He'll probably watch this, man. Gideon, shout out to you. His Chop Top impression is scary. Music is my life. Like he does it perfect. It's to the point where it's actually kind of scary how good he does it. But yeah, everything about this movie, man. I'll be honest, the first time I saw it, I didn't care for it too much. I remember being like, that's your follow-up to this epic, original film. That's where you go with this. But thinking about it, it's one of those movies where I think back and I'm like, this is actually really the best way they could have tried, because they didn't, in essence, they didn't try to recapture or they didn't try to improve upon perfection, because you can't do that. Like, I really appreciate that he accepted that and said, listen, I'm just going to have fun with this. I'm going to make a fun movie. I'm going to get good, charismatic actors. Carolyn Williams playing Stretch in this is a really, really fun character actress. She's gone on to be in like Leprechaun 3. I believe she was in Hatchet 3. She's really cool. Luke Perryman, who may he rest in peace, he plays kind of her sidekick guy, and he gets his like entire face like peeled off. It's actually insane. Really good effect. I mean, really good effect. And again, man, you have a really backcrap crazy final finale. Again, like you have Leatherface and Dennis Hopper chainsaw dueling like it's a lightsaber battle on the dinner table. And
not very realistic, but still great watch.
Badass as hell, And I love Jim Cedow. He gets his ass. The chainsaw hits his ass. He goes, oh man, you might have got a couple of my hams. He's chainsawed off his hemorrhoids. Like, Jim Cedow deserved an Oscar for this movie. Like,
yes, he's so great,
funny, dude. Yeah, and like I actually looked up last night because I was never too like I'm not a Jim Cedow expert. I just knew him really from these two movies. And the honest to God truth, he really didn't do many acting roles. These were really it. I mean, he did a couple of other roles, a couple of uncredited roles. So I was just kind of like bummed out. I was like, damn, Jim Cedow. Yeah, I wish he had done more, because I thought he was really, really I think he held this movie together for me. Like, you had No Hitchhiker in this film, but Chop Top comes right in, picks up the slack. And then, you have Jim Cedow returning, and he's like really the only one that does return, the same actor, I mean, and I just think he does a fantastic job. And I had to ask, was the tone of this movie, did it ever bother you like from the first time you watched it? Because I'll be honest, I won't lie, it did bother me. Like I was just like, like this is where you go, a kind of goofy approach, but I've learned to appreciate it over the years for sure. But what were your thoughts? Like, did it bother you at all?
Yeah, when I first seen it, I remember thinking it wasn't that scary, and I was expecting a scary movie, like, legit serious film. And at that time, I didn't see like, An American Werewolf in London or these other movies that did comedy and their horror, but I wasn't used to it. So I was like, to be honest, at first it was kind of one of my least favorite ones. I was like, it was all right, but I'll move on to the next one. But over the years, like you, I think it's just with most people, it's like that. I mean, with most people, you start off, you don't really like it that much, and then you watch it more and more, notice more and more great things. And I think that's a reason why most underrated movies get, fans now, because you just go back and really watch it again and just accept it for being very different. That's what I had to do. And I honestly found myself laughing a lot while watching it. So it was entertaining, but it was like, at the same time, I was kind of disappointed that it wasn't as scary. But going back and watching again, I still have fun with it all the time.
I feel the same exact way. Like I agree. Like when I first saw it, I was like, I don't like this one as much as some of the others, but I agree. It's grown on me over time because I think I finally got what Toby Hooper was going for. The first time I watched it, there was really nobody to tell me, oh, this is going to be, kind of comedic. Like,
Yeah.
I saw this cover and was like, oh man, I can't wait. There's like a hand and a leg and bloody chainsaw. I was like, oh man, I thought it would do the original sequel approach, like Halloween 2, let's amp up the gore. Friday 13th,
Yeah.
2, the body count literally continues. So I thought it was going to be just like that. I thought it was going to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre on steroids. I thought it was going to be, instead of 5 kids taking the idyllic summer drive, we're going to have 10 this time. And like, I'll be honest, I don't know if that would have worked because the movies that you look at, down the road, the remake and the beginning and Texas Chainsaw 3D, they go back to that formula. And I don't think those movies are as memorable or as beloved. It's definitely not as beloved as this movie is by the cult audience. And I really like this movie too. If I had to go a rating, I'm going to go like a 7.5 out of 10. I won't lie. I actually like the next movie a lot more. I always have. I know people get very mad at me when I say that, but I do like this one. I do have fun with this one. And Nate, what's your rating, my friend?
I would say a 9.5, man. I actually really, really love this movie. It's one of my favorite sequels to watch. I got into it, man. I really got into it.
And that's the beauty of the series, man. Like you can go from one extreme to another extreme, but it still works and it's still memorable. And that's why I think both of these movies will forever be, cult favorites. Part 3, it's a shame. I don't think part 3 is as beloved as these two, but I'll be honest, I kind of love it as much as these two. So moving on, I don't have the DVD for part 3, so if you can show it up, I actually can't see you, by the way. I can just see the
well, I got this. It's the R-rated and unrated version, probably the best. But if they have a Blu-ray out, you can get that too. But
they do have a Blu-ray, I believe. I've been waiting on that. I've just been waiting for the price to drop because I love the next movie. It is Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Yes, Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3 came out in 1990. It was directed by Jeff Burr. And it was written by David J. Shaw, who actually went on to write a bunch of awesome Masters of Horror episodes. So shout out to David J. Shaw. Yeah. Think he's an awesome writer. And man, right off the bat, I would have to say, if it's not this one, I would say this is arguably the most underrated one of the series. And I know you feel the same way, but man, walk me through this one for yourself. Like, because I've always kind of loved it. I don't really get the hate for this one, but man, give me your thoughts on TCM Part 3, Leatherface.
Well, I just want to say this, man. This is the real Leatherface Chainsaw Massacre movie, not the other Leatherface movie. Don't see that one.
Damn right.
This one, because this one is so badly underrated. I think it's the same reason why Friday the 13th Part 7 gets so much hate, is because really it should have had more gore in it, and it was supposed to have more gore in it, but you can have the MPAA to thank for that. But I still love the movie without the gore. I think it still has some great things in it. And it's just easily, man, like it's a movie that I've seen sometime after Part 2. I've seen it years after Part 2 because I couldn't find it anywhere. There was no releases. I couldn't find it. One day I found it during a Halloween October sale at Walmart. $5 to get it. Picked it up, and I remember the first time I seen it. And actually, John, I know you're a big wrestling fan. I don't know if you ever noticed in this DVD, but in the DVD menu, Hardcore Holly's theme is playing.
Really? I didn't know that.
The old WWE Hardcore Holly theme is playing in the intro to this. I was like, what?
Yeah, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, so if you ever get that DVD, you'll notice that when it opens up. But I love the atmosphere to it. I think it has a really good looking atmosphere, just the way it looks and the way it's lit with the backwoods. And I think that really matches the movie great. And I think the family is well done. I like you got really early performances in this movie. You got, Kate Hodge, William Butler, Ken Foray. You got Viggo Mortensen in this movie, as well as Aria Mihailoff playing a great Leatherface in this film. And I love the chainsaw in the movie. The chainsaw is like 12 feet long, and it's like
family, brother.
Family, dude. It's so freaking good. I love that so much. I love the trailer too. The trailer really got me hooked because back in the day, I seen the trailer of the hand coming out and then the chainsaw and the lightning. I was like, yeah, bro, I got to see this movie. So I was glad to pick it up. I honestly think it's really underrated. I love this movie to death. I can't get enough of part 3.
I'm the same way, man. And I like you were saying about the trailer. I love that King Arthur trailer, man. That is so awesome. Like
It
I
was
don't understand.
great.
I know this movie flopped like at the box office. Like
Mhm.
nobody went to see this. And I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, it's part two's fault. Oh, it's their fault. They waited 4 years." I don't really know, but like if I was alive at that time period and I saw that commercial where King Arthur, Leatherface taking the chainsaw out of the water, turning around, I would have been there the opening goddamn
Yeah.
night to see
First
that.
in line, guaranteed.
That's an excellent trailer for marketing, but I guess it didn't work out ultimately. I don't know why, but that's
The
bad.
shame.
I believe there was also wasn't there? Didn't Motorhead do a like a Leatherface song, like a 4 minute awesome heavy metal? And I don't even know.
And
I'm
the
not.
whole soundtrack is heavy metal. It's great.
Yeah, that's another reason I love this movie. That was like this was like the awesome like late 80s, early 90s was like a really good time for heavy metal. And Motorhead was like right at the goddamn peak of their, awesomeness. And that's really why I really dug this movie for that soundtrack purposes. And I don't know, like I feel like a lot of the characters in this one get hate, but I think they're very memorable too. Like maybe because they're not as animated as they are in part two, but man, I think Vigo does a great job in this. Of course, Viggo Mortensen would go on to be in the Lord of the Rings. He's like an Academy Award nominated several times actor. You have I think Kate Hodge was a great final girl, and I thought that her character had a good arc that a lot of final girls don't always get. For example, her arc is really at the beginning, towards the beginning of the film, they see a dead or an armadillo that has been hit. It's not dead yet. It's kind of like on its last limb, and they're going to put it out of its misery. And she says, I'll do it. And she can't. By the end of the film, she's taunting Leatherface to come and get her. She's like, yeah, come on, you sick bastard. I'm right here. You and me. And I love that because it kind of shows you that she did grow over time. Her character did have a purpose. Her character wasn't, she may have started out weak, but she saw it, that doesn't mean I can't fight back. And I always really liked that character arc. Nobody ever mentions that. Everyone's just like, oh, she was whiny, didn't like her, she wasn't hot, didn't have big boobs. I'm just like, yo, goddamn, like what? she was. I thought she was pretty. I thought she was.
They think she's ugly. They got issues. I'm just saying that.
I agree. I think she's beautiful. Dude, I don't know. Like I've heard she gets a lot of hate, and I just don't get why. I think she's a really good final girl. Dare I say it? I don't want to piss people off. I like her better than Caroline Williams in the previous film. I'll say it. I don't care. Stretch is likable, but I thought Kate Hodge, I just liked her arc better. I thought just the direction her character went in was kind of cooler. And that's the thing with this movie too. Maybe coming off part two, people don't like that it tried to revert back to the serious tone of the original. This movie, I will say, of all of them, is the closest in trying to recapture the feel of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I would say this one comes the closest. I know a lot of people, bitch and moan, oh, this was shot in California. It's not even tech. I'm like, yeah, obviously, I understand that. But I was like, I still think the director Jeff Burr did a great job. And I really like the Ken Foree character. Are you a veteran? Only on the weekends. I love that. Like he's so funny in this. And then the little guy. Oh my god, I can't think of the character's name. Is it Joe? Is it the little guy who's just like singing motherfucker? Like that guy is hilarious, man. And him and Ken Foree get into it. He is a really funny final. That scene with Kate Hodge and what's a chance a city girl like you knows how to use a shotgun like that? She cocks back pretty goddamn good, you backwoods motherfucker. Boom, shoots his ass out. Like that's awesome, man. And people hate this movie, man. I don't get why. Do you have any like understanding as to why do you think people hate this movie? Because like I have tried to go through each different reason, and I usually can never find one that actually makes sense to me.
It's the same thing with me, man. I don't really get it. I mean, I think maybe because you had the first movie, which was very serious. Second movie, which was very bonkers, crazy, off the wall. And this movie went back to being serious. And I don't know if that shift was what people were wanting. Excuse me. I don't know if that was really... I think maybe people were expecting, once again, another bonkers movie. But then again, it doesn't really explain why people didn't go to the theaters. I think it was maybe just a weird time for horror. I mean, you think about early 90s is when things started going downhill. Michael Myers was not making money. Freddy Krueger wasn't making money. Jason wasn't making money. Leatherface wasn't making money. So really, that was when I think the burnout was going on, where it was like, all right, you had all this slasher This is like the late 80s now. It's time to burn this down. Let's go into a different era. And it's the same with wrestling, man. There's reasons why we had that great golden era, and then you had the new generation. It's like this was the new generation period. When you think about it, we didn't have another great horror film till like 95. But you had like your few great ones, like Candyman came out 92, which is a great horror film. But yeah, man, I think it may have been that. I've heard because of the cuts. I don't know, man. I just think people need to just, relax, watch it. You think about it, the first movie doesn't have any gore in it. So to say this movie doesn't have any gore in it, it's kind of like, well, the first movie doesn't have any gore in it. That's the thing. Part 2 had gore. Part 2 had crazy stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah, and at the time, people didn't like that movie, so it just doesn't. To me, it's like this is a really tough fan base where after the original, it's hard to please people. And I'll be the first one to tell you, like, and I've always felt this way. This is really the only movie that ever had to be made in the series. I understand that. I get that. But that does not mean that this movie is a piece of trash. That does not mean that part 3 is a piece of trash, and so on and so forth for the rest of these movies. I see them for what they are. Like, was I disappointed that we didn't get as much gore in Texas Chainsaw 3? Yeah. But I know that Jeff Burr shot it. I know that Jeff Burr went to the MPA like a record amount of times. I believe it was 11 goddamn times that he fought and pleaded for the goddamn
movie. He wanted his name removed.
Yeah, because they destroyed his vision and his gore. And like a lot of time goes into shooting that. A lot of money goes into setting up the effects for that. And for them to just go, oh, well, this is just like Friday 13th Part 7, Sleepaway Camp 3, and all this stuff that we're going to cut it to shreds. And, it's a shame that all that stuff ended up on the cutting room floor. I wish they would release a version where they do have all that stuff back in it. But I don't think that cripples this movie. I think you have good characters. Ken Foree is fun as ever. Ken Foree in any horror movie, calling people motherfuckers, running around, kicking ass.
Ending, that M16 shoot scene was so great with the fingers. It was great.
Awesome. I love the finale. I know people really complain about the other family members in this one. Like, a lot of people hate the little girl. A lot of people don't like the mother. I'm in the minority here that I didn't mind those two being added, and Vigo and the other guy. Like, I didn't mind that this family as much. When you get to like the remake, when you get to like, the guy with no legs and the tea lady and Arlie Ermey literally reprising the role of Full Metal Jacket, like that stuff to me was too far to me. But like this I felt like was subtle. It wasn't over. It was just a creepy little girl. Cool. I don't mind you adding a creepy little girl. I know a lot of people bitch about that too. I don't know. This is one of those movies that I just think like people see it in a different way than I do. Like, I'm always like, I watch reviews and people are like, this one's horrible. It's almost like the Child's Play 3 of this franchise. Like, people just hate it.
Really excellent analogy, man. It's a great comparison, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Love part 3 of Child's Play.
Me too. And I just never, I don't know. It's another movie I just don't get the hate for. I almost feel like, did we see the same movie? Like, I always want to ask people that hate, oh, it's so bad. I'm like, did you see, like, have you seen really bad sequels? Like, I don't know. Like, I just always kind of roll my eyes at those people. But
Creepshow 3.
Yeah, Creepshow 3. Exactly. Silent Night, Deadly Night 4. Like, there are a lot of worse sequels than Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. But, whatever, to each his own. Out of 10, I would probably go at an 8.5 to a 9 out of Leatherface Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. It's always a film I enjoyed. I don't care that there's not as much blood. I know that he shot it. I know that he tried. That does not bother me. And I think Kate Hodge is awesome. I think Ken Foree is awesome. William Butler has his moments. I think he's like overall cool actor. He's been in a lot of horror films. He's actually coincidentally in Friday 13th Part 7. I know he went on to write the later Return of the Living Dead sequels, which are best left unmentioned, I guess. But man, I enjoy Leatherface Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. I've always enjoyed the movie. I don't get the hate. 8.5 out of 10 for me. But how about you, buddy?
I would give it probably around an 8.5, same as you, man. I really enjoy it. I think it's a great sequel. And I want to kind of end it off with just, there's roadkill over Texas. Got that right.
Yes, I love it, man. That I got to get part 3 on Blu-ray because there's a damn crime I don't have it in my collection. But moving on from part 3, Oh boy. Nate was talking about the next or I guess the next generation or the new generation in the WWE, right? In 1993.
Yeah.
Well, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series, it did follow in suit, not with a new generation, but a next generation, a generation filled with not Sawyers, but Slaughters, a generation filled with A-list people that would go on to win Best Actor and Actress awards, running around with mechanical legs. I am talking to you people here today about what was initially titled The Return of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I am talking to you people today about the fourth film of the series, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation, starring Matthew McConaughey and Renee flippin' Zellweger. All right, Nate, I need to hear your thoughts first. I have a lot of thoughts. Me and my good buddy Brian talk about this movie a lot, and it is, it's a crazy flick. I may have a very controversial opinion on it, but I want to hear Nate's because he did an ultra mega freaking rant on this one, and I gotta hear it right here live on the Graveyard, my friend. Go for it.
Well, let's just say the only Scream Factory released to get the cover changed, so the lead actors got taken off of it.
Very true. No, they couldn't take it off my Instagram post last night.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, they're gonna be on my Instagram post. I don't give a damn.
I love that cover. With them out, without them on, it looks weird.
It looks so bad because then it's just Leatherface, which is like literally the weakest point of the next.
Yeah. He is like the worst thing in this movie, and that's I don't know. I mean, I can agree with you on this, John. Matthew McConaughey is fantastic in this movie. He is so awesome, so great as Vilmer. I love him.
That bitch go. I love it.
So much great stuff, man. Renee Zellweger, I thought was in the movie. I mean, I'll be honest. I think she's a great actress, but in this movie, a lot of people give her some positives. I'm like, she's very. And for some reason, this gets talked about more than part 3. And people, I've heard conversations in real life of somebody going, "Oh yeah, this is better than part 3." I'm just like, I gotta purchase my movie right. I'm gonna go. I gotta get out of the store right now.
I'm not listening, and just run out of the store.
Oh, dude, I will admit this, man. They tried to be different, but at the same time, they ripped off most of the original. So, I mean, how can you be different if you ripped off? The difference is that they made Leatherface a chick or a dude in drag, which is very offensive as a Leatherface fan. They make him just, for lack of a better term, he's a bitch in this movie. He literally gets told by Renee Zellweger, almost Matthew McConaughey. Well, Matthew McConaughey is the same thing, but Renee Zellweger says, "Sit down and shut up." And I'm just like, and he does it. And I'm just like, bro, no, you did not. No, you did not. Bro, the first time I seen this movie, I was laughing and I was angry. I felt all kinds of emotions, man. I was just this movie, the acting too. There's a line in this movie where a girl goes, "Is he dead? Did he die?" That's literally her deliverance.
The girl in the purple dress is so bad. She's so hot too. Like, you're just like, oh my God, like, what a travesty. You have zero acting talent. Like, but God,
Yes.
look at, but man, it's so fun. Is he dead? Did we kill him? Oh my God. Like, she can't do anything.
Prostrate cancer. If he doesn't do that, he might get prostrate cancer. I'm like, dude, what?
Dude, I love it.
I don't know, man. Just the plot, man. It's a rip off of it really is a rip off, and the only salvageable thing about this movie is Matthew McConaughey. If he wasn't in this movie, it'd be an utter disgrace. But with him in this movie, I just wish he would make a solo, regular horror film called Vilmer.
Oh my God, I would watch that in a heartbeat. I would kill to see the Vilmer movie, the direct DVD Vilmer movie. I would kill to watch that. But man, like, I actually have a pretty funny little story with this one. The first time I watched this one, I held off for years. I literally think you saw this movie before I did. And like, I had watched all the other films in the series. Everyone and their mother told me it is one of the worst horror movies of all time, John. Don't watch it. Don't subject yourself to this crap. And I held off and I held off. And one night I knew it was coming on Showtime late. It was like 1 a.m. And I was like, you know what? I'm finally going to just do it. I'm probably just going to watch this. I'll probably hate it. I'll probably whatever. And God damn it, I understand it's bad on a technical standpoint. I understand that Kim Hinkle was probably doing more drugs at that time than any human being in America. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was entertained from the word go. I thought it was really funny. Like there's scenes in this movie where Matthew McConaughey, he's talking to one of the people and he goes, "First, I'm going to kill you. Ain't no fucking biggie." And he's pointing at him and I'm just like, what the hell? Like Matthew McConaughey is so flipping over the top in this movie. It is hilarious. Like I laugh my ass off. And like, just, oh my God, some of the, give me a reason why I shouldn't kill you. 9-8. Don't be late. 7-6. Better get it right. Like, oh my God, he's great. And the dinner scene in this movie, oh my God, it is literally like Scary Movie could not have done a better parody of the dinner scene in the original than this movie does, trying to be serious. Matthew McConaughey walks in the room with the classic, all right, all right, all right. Welcome to my world. I love that.
I love that. That's a great line, honestly.
It's awesome. Yeah. And then shit starts hitting the fan at the dinner, and randomly, this like guy that you think is dead at the table, he wakes up, grabs a knife, and he starts shaking and walks out of the room.
He's like, what was that all about? And then the guy comes in, thou shalt not fear, but fear himself. It gets whacked in the head. I'm just like,
he's Teddy Roosevelt. He thinks he's FDR.
Like, what are you doing, man?
Dude, I know that guy is just literally just there, and Matthew McConaughey just beats the crap out of him the entire time. I'm like, what the hell am I watching right now? Like, it's blasphemy. And then to me, the scene that really took the cake, like where I the first time I watched this, it was late. I was like, damn, this is crazy. But the scene for me that really made this movie, like, I started nervously laughing at this because to this day, I don't know why. I don't know. They're at the dinner scene, and this random guy who we have not seen at all rolls up in a limo, and he's dressed like Vito Corleone. And he comes in the goddamn house, and he's like, "What are you doing? This is an abomination. I want these people to understand the meaning of horror." And I'm just like, what the hell? And what gets lost in the scene, Matthew McConaughey's face. He's looking at this Vito Corleone guy like he's the devil himself. He's like his eyeballs look like they're about to bulge out of his head. And I laughed my ass. I nervously just started going, what is going on? And they suggest something along the lines of the Illuminati has been something to do with the Slaughter family now. Yes, they changed it from Sawyer to Slaughter. And Renee Zellweger sitting there, and he starts licking her face. And then he pulls up his shirt. He's got all kind of weird, like, belly markings and rings and piercings. It's bat crap crazy, man. Like, what the hell is going on? But before, Moran, I'm going to 255. Cool? Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure you guys didn't cut us off in 5 minutes. Yeah, we got an extra 15 today because we had a late setup here. But, man, I don't know. This movie is just bat crap crazy, man. Wouldn't you say?
Oh, dude. I would give it this, man. The dinner scene in this is good for all the wrong reasons, but it's so goddamn good. And the remote scene where they're battling with the remotes, it's like suspenseful. And there's literally moments in this movie where the piano, literally, you sit somebody on the piano, they have a hard time. That's the soundtrack. It's just like, oh my God, dude. They were trying to do that whole disturbing music thing like the original did, but it's just so bad. And a guy gets hit with a sledgehammer, no bruise, no mark, no blood. Nothing. Just, oh, I'm dead. And it's like, oh my God. And he locks this guy out of his own house.
He locks in the bathroom. And there's dead bodies everywhere.
He walks into a bathroom with skin everywhere. He's like, I'm just going to go use the bathroom.
I'm going to drain the main vein.
Oh my God. No, you did not. There's a scene where Renee Zellweger gets attacked by a trash bag, and it's this big jump scare. Do you remember that scene where they're in the drive-thru and she goes, "If you don't be quiet, I'm gonna, have to hit you," or something like that. She's like, "Okay, but I can't breathe. Can you break a hole in the bag?" I'm just like, If I was a hostage, I would not be going, I can't breathe, man. Can you just, break a hole in the bag for me so I can breathe? Oh, thank you. Give me a fry as well. Can you give me a cheeseburger? I would really appreciate that.
She can't breathe. I can't breathe, man. I thought that was the funniest. And randomly enough, I don't know how many wrestling fans we have watching, but Deborah McMichael shows up as one of the cops in that scene. It's like her only film credit ever, who went on to be Stone Cold's wife, and like she was a manager in WWF at the time. Like I was just like, why is Deborah McMichael randomly showing up in this damn movie? Like it's just I think this movie is the Troll 2 of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series. It is so horrendously bad, but it's so funny at the same time. Like just the over the top trying to rip off the ending where Renee is running and she gets in an RV and Leatherface is on the side, and randomly by chance, a airplane runs down.
Yeah, like a crop airplane. I was like just flying around. There's an RV. She gets in the RV, gets those people killed, and the plane comes swooping down. I'm like, what the? Who's in that airplane? He's a hero.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I guess that was Kim Henkel's response. He was like, well, the random truck driver in the original, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I could see accidentally hitting somebody with your truck.
A plane?
Randomly hitting someone with a plane? Come on. Like, oh my God. This movie is good, clean comedy.
And then like the limo picks her up. I'm like, is he a bad guy or a good guy? Why is he picking her up? Like,
random cameos from Paul A. Partain and Marilyn Burns.
It was random crap. I'm like, what is this?
Oh, dude, like I won't lie. Like I agree with all the people that hate this movie. I understand the hate. Like this is like with the last movie. I don't get the hate. I don't get the hate for part 3. I think part 3 is really underrated. This movie, I understand why people were like, "What the hell?" when this movie came out.
You're scaring me. That's literally a dialogue.
Dude, I know the acting is just so horrendously bad, and it's just but McConaughey's great. And I will say this, I talked to Joe Bob Briggs around a year ago, and I messaged him because I read a quote from him and I didn't believe it. He said this was the greatest horror movie of the 1990s. I swear to God, that is a real quote. He said that. I DM'd him on Instagram, on Twitter, and I said, hello, Mr. Briggs, big fan. Is that true? Did you really like? And he actually responded, yes. He said, I dead ass think it is one of the best horror movies. Great acting, great story, great plot. And then he was like, give me your email. I'll keep you in the loop with all my horror news and stuff. And I was like, well, thanks, Mr. Briggs. So this movie, and weirdly enough, you said it before, Joe Bob Briggs thinks Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 is the worst of the series. He gave it a 0 out of 10. So I don't know. There's just sometimes where I'll throw my arms up. I'm like, what are people looking for? Even a horror legend like Joe Bob. I mean, very few horror hosts are as beloved as Joe Bob, and we love him too. But I was just like, wow, like I found it entertaining. But man, Joe Bob Briggs thinks this is the best of better than Scream. He thinks it's better than Child's Play 2. He thinks
better than Candyman,
and better than Blair Witch, better than so many good, horror movies, especially towards the latter half of the 90s, early half, I agree, that next generation standpoint, the new generation standpoint. Although I kind of just want to call for now on the next generation standpoint because that works better for me. But man, yeah, this movie, it's hard to give this movie a rating because I enjoy it because it's bad. Like if I was a subjective, like a snobby critic, I'd probably give this movie a really low score. But it did entertain me. Matthew McConaughey's great. I love all the crazy ass lines in it. The bad acting just adds to it. For some reason, the mechanical leg is just so hokey. I laugh at it every time. This is a hard one for me to rate, man, but I think I'm going to come in around an 8 out of 10 for the next generation. I know, throw your stones at me. I'm sorry, but I like this movie. I had fun with it. I'm sorry.
I think I'm warming up to it. I think I am because the more I watch it, the more I laugh at it. Even the first time I watched it, I thought I was watching a damn comedy.
Yeah.
But like, I legit thought it was a parody. I'm like, is this a parody? Like, are you guys kidding with me? No, this is a real movie. Now, I would say I'm going to go with the 5 only because of Matthew McConaughey. But the rest of the stuff from the movie is really rough. Like the filmmaking, the locations, the house, the music, the everything. Leatherface in this movie is the biggest insult because for me, they made Leatherface into such like he literally in this movie is neutered. He literally in this movie is not doing anything but getting yelled at and screamed at and being told to sit down and shut up by Renee Zellweger, and he does it. But I thought Matthew McConaughey was great in the movie, and there's just some hilarious scenes in the movie, like that weird scene where Matthew McConaughey and the girl like making out in the kitchen. It's like, who makes out like that?
On the floor too, like after he's just like, and he does
like,
the Tuscan Raider, like with the shotgun, and oh my god, man, like Kim Henkel, like. I understand you made a bad film here, but man, thank you for being on all the drugs you were on at that time. Like,
yes,
you would have never gotten the movie for somebody that wasn't mentally disturbed, and Kim Hinkle definitely is. So, yeah, I have fun with this movie. I know it's bad, but like I said, I enjoyed on a Troll 2 level. It's so bad.
I can agree with that. Yeah, I can agree with that.
Totally. We have about 8 minutes left here, but I figure we get into the remake, and then if you ever want to come back on, or we could just do a stream talking about the ones we're not going to talk. I think we're missing out like 3. So the beginning, 3D, and Leatherface, the ones we probably won't discuss today. But I figure it would be a good way to finish this off is discussing in 2003, 10 years removed. I think actually, yeah, about close to 10 years removed from the disaster that was The Next Generation. Marcus Nispel took the director's chair, who would go on to do the Friday 13th remake, and I believe the Conan the Barbarian remake, which stunk. He would take the director's chair. Michael Bay would be the producer. They'd get Jessica Biel and her ginormous boobs to star in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. You want to give your thoughts on this one first? Because mine aren't too positive. I know you actually do enjoy the film, so I'd like to hear your thoughts first.
Yeah, I actually do enjoy it. Trying to get this DVD thing shut, but a lot of people don't really like it that much. I can see. I mean, I don't know. I mean, as far as remakes go, I think it's definitely one of the better ones. I like the way the movie looks. I like the way the movie's shot. I think as a traditional kind of horror film, I think it's done well. With the typical kind of stuff. And I think Jessica Biel is a great lead, in my opinion. They keep it practical. There's not really any CGI. I like the guy who played Leatherface in this movie. I don't remember his name, but he did a great job playing. I
think it's Andrew Bernarski.
Andrew Bernarski, and he's not Leatherface. That's the thing. It's very different. It's not Leatherface. It's Thomas Hewitt. But I kind of like how they made it different. It's not a total ripoff of the original. It's a very unique film. I like Marcus Nispel's style. Granted, I only like 2 of his movies, but still, those 2 movies I actually really do like. Like, I like the Friday the 13th remake. I like this remake as well. But the characters were okay. I think the only reason why it gets so much hate, though, and I can kind of see why, is it's not really. I mean, did we really need a Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake? And it's another movie that kind of wants to put the gore in there to try and make it more of a massacre. It's like, no, that's not what made the original like gritty and raw. It was the filmmaking, it was the style, and this has a great style too, but not nearly as good as the original. And I don't know, man. I think that for what it is, as a generic remake, I think it's pretty good for what it is.
I feel you, man. And before I get into my thoughts on it, the actual people don't know this, at least most people don't. I've guessed than you do because you're a huge Chainsaw fan. The original choice for Leatherface in this film was actually not Andrew Bernarski. The original choice for Leatherface in this film was Dolph Lundgren. Could you imagine Ivan Drago wielding the goddamn chainsaw around, man? That would have been nuts. Like, I actually think that would have been really cool for me because I'm a huge Lundgren fan. Yeah, my producer Hannah loves that. She would have loved to see some Lundgren Leatherface. Hell yeah. That would have been badass. But I don't know, man. My problems with this movie, and maybe it is, my reflection as to if part 2 had tried to do the same thing as the original, I think it just falls flat. I feel like they add a lot of family members that I just did not care about. To me, the best thing in the movie is Jessica Biel running around in a tight, wet, white t-shirt. That's the best thing in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, in my opinion. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, when I say that, like,
agreed.
The only thing that keeps me watching. I do like her character. I do think she did have an arc. She was tough. She was a fighter. I liked that. I appreciated that. So I definitely don't think she was a weak final girl by any means. But I don't know, man. Like, you do have like good act. Like, Erica Learson's one of the girls in this movie. I always liked Erica Learson. She's in like Blair Witch 2. I believe she was in Wrong Turn 2. Really liked Erica Learson, but Man, Cheyenne's here. Cheyenne, rock on, Cheyenne. Cheyenne show's coming on next, so we're going to wrap this up quick. But yeah, I don't know, man. I never was feeling this one. I thought that some of the acting wasn't the greatest. I thought the kills weren't the greatest. I thought the dinner scene was a huge letdown. Like I was like, all right, let's see what they do with this. And I don't know, it just didn't meet up to my I guess expectations. You have randomly Jessica Biel, she steals a baby from this family and she's trying like she at one point she chops off Leatherface's arm and like I don't know, like I just don't there's something about this movie that I just could never get into. I really do think it's me as opposed to, you know, other things. Like I don't know if the movie is that bad. I think it's like a 6.2 on IMDb. That's an amazing score for a remake, I think. I don't know. I think with Friday the 13th, the reason that Marcus Nispel's Friday the 13th worked is because that's a simple formula. That's boobs, blood, and mayhem. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre isn't really boobs, blood, and mayhem. That's not really the formula. Like watch part 2, watch part 3. Those aren't boobs, blood, and mayhem movies. There's hardly any blood in part 3. I don't think there's any boobs in part 3. But I feel like, what, Cheyenne? I like boobs. Cheyenne's being mad because I don't because she don't like boobs. I don't get it. You have boobs. How can you be hypocrite? Wonderful. I love you too. But yeah, I wish you could see all their faces. They all look like they're like, what the hell is Grande on right now? Nothing.
Good thing I'm at the studio right now.
yeah, I know. You can paint the picture.
Sorry, John.
Oh, no, it's all good. It's all good. But yeah, man, I don't know. Just this movie never did it for me. I feel like, we got about a minute left, so we have to wrap this up, unfortunately. But man, I would give this movie, I'm going to go like a 4 out of 10. I don't like this movie. I'm going to give it the Bret Hart rating. What would you give it though, brother?
I give it probably around a 6 or a 5. I mean, it's really not anything special, but it is what it is.
I feel you. Well, dude, I want to thank you for coming on today. We will continue this. I promise. If it's not on another show, we'll continue it on another stream. We could just do a stream at our houses. It's set up in 2 minutes. This was a long process to set up. But, dude, thank you. It has been a pleasure to have you on, man. I've been wanting to have you on for years. And, man, this episode did not disappoint. You kicked ass. We took names together, bro.
Thank you so much for having me on, man. It was awesome. It was a blast. Thank you so much, man.
Too sweet, brother. I'll catch you later, all right?
All right. See you later, bro.
Rock on, man. Peace.
Peace.
End of the stream? Just hit end stream. Good looks.